Okay, so Eagles OTAs are officially underway, and the Birds are already competing really hard. Plus, it seems like a few new team leaders are emerging as offseason activities continue. Meanwhile, the Eagles have been linked to some of the top remaining free agents that could hypothetically fill up their open roster spots. So, how much sense do these options make? Well, we're going to talk about that and all the other latest Eagles news in this video today, so let's not waste any time and get straight into it. Alright, so let's start this off by diving deeper into the whole DeVante Parker situation, as after the Eagles signed the veteran wide receiver this offseason to a one-year deal, he decided to abruptly retire on the first day of OTAs, which came as a surprise to many because there was a number of people that thought maybe Parker could have a chance to start as the Birds wide receiver 3 this season, despite the fact that he has declined over the past few years. But Parker probably just decided that he didn't want to go through another grueling season, which includes all the hard work in the offseason, OTAs, training camp, preseason, the regular season, and of course all the practices that come with that. So, I mean, that's fair enough. He's a 9-year vet, he's made some good money, and he's clearly not at the top of his game anymore, and he probably just figured it was time to move on and spend more time with family and pursuing other things, which is pretty much what he said the reasons were, with Adam Schefter tweeting out, quote, "After 9 NFL seasons, Eagles wide receiver DeVante Parker has decided to retire," he said Monday night. As much as he looked forward to his time with the Eagles, Parker decided the time had come to spend more time with his family that includes his 4 children. Quote, "I want to see my kids, spend quality time with them." Parker said, "I want to be there for them whenever I can." The 31-year-old Parker is walking away from the NFL and looks forward to whatever is next, though he has no definitive short-term professional plans. Quote, "I'm just going to take things slowly," Parker said. So just like that, the Eagles list of potential options at wide receiver 3 just got shorter, and also just good luck to DeVante Parker in his newfound retirement. Now, another Eagle, and a much more notable one that recently retired, is the legend himself, Jason Kelce, and if you remember back a few weeks ago, it was reported that Kelce still hangs around the practice facility all the time. In fact, Jake Elliott said that he's there pretty much every day, and this has led some to speculate that Kelce could potentially be looking to return at some point. But recently, Jason was on John Clark's Takeoff podcast where he was asked about this exact topic, and he explained the real reasons why he's always in the Eagles facilities.
And a couple of guys have said you're still there at the NovaCare complex a lot.
Yeah.
Are you trying to stay in touch with that part of it that you love, the camaraderie, being around the guys?
I mean, part of it's that, part of it's just getting a free lift down in a NovaCare. I think, I've gotten accustomed to going down there. I love going down there. It keeps me involved with it, whether it's being around the guys, being around the coaches, my mind in the game from, what teams are doing to try and prepare for this coming season and things the defenses are getting ready to do. So, the game's always evolving, and if I want to stay knowledgeable about it, I think you have to continue to stay involved, to stay around the game, to stay around the guys that are in it, stay around the coaches that are in it. And for me, I kind of get a twofer. I get to be able to work out and kind of poke my head around a little bit.
I honestly think that Jason wants to keep playing, but he just won't or can't because of health reasons, and also he probably just wants to spend more time with his family. But his reasons for staying around the practice facility are very valid, and I'm not going to argue with it. Like, it's great to have Kelce in the building and around the team, and it's also going to be great just to see him back in the link for the home opener versus the Falcons on Monday Night Football in Week 2, as he's of course going to be a part of the Monday night broadcast team, so that's going to be very fun. But we still obviously got a long ways to go before we get to that point in the season starting. I mean, as for right now, we're just in OTAs during the offseason, and while we're going to get a ton of information on that probably tomorrow on Thursday, which I'm of course going to be covering, so make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. But for right now, we have limited information about what's been going on at Eagles OTAs. But one thing is for sure, and that's that the Eagles are competing, as the Birds social media team released yet another video of a one-on-one competition, this one with undrafted free agent defensive tackle Gabe Hall going up against rookie guard Trevor Keegan in a push-up contest.
Hey, you'll start. Follow after him. 1-for-1.
Workout after this. Bring it up. Hey, way to compete. Hey, way to compete. Way to compete, man. Let's finish the day off Let's finish the day off, man. Way to compete, rookies. Welcome to the team, man. Let's go, baby. Compete on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Now, there's a lot of takeaways from this video, one being something that maybe you can't get from the video itself, but it is worth noting, and that's the fact that Gabe Hall is a guy who seems like there actually might be a chance that he could make the roster. I mean, the Eagles' DT depth isn't amazing behind the first 3 or so guys, and Hall really impressed at the Senior Bowl and showed some pass rush ability in college, so I feel like there's definitely a chance that he could make it onto the roster or the practice squad. But the other thing that I love about this video is that the team's vibes just look amazing. Like, everyone is engaged. I mean, these two are competing hard against each other, and then the team around them is pushing them, especially the team leaders, which it seems like we may actually have a few new ones, as in addition to the regular leaders like Jalen and AJ being front and center, you can also see in this video Saquon Barkley being very active and front and center, pretty much like he's been in all the other competition videos that we've gotten so far. And then you also got the new linebacker Devin White on the other side doing pretty much the same thing, which you just love to see. And then maybe the biggest one is Jordan Mailata, who was pushing the rookie offensive lineman Trevor Keegan the entire time, and then he also broke down the huddle, so that was definitely awesome to see. I mean, it really does seem like Mailata is ready to step up as a leader now that Fletch and Kelce are gone, and I definitely would not be surprised if he gets his first captain selection this year. And one guy who specifically could really benefit from the leadership of Mailata is Laken Vakalahi, who of course is one of the team's undrafted rookies and very clearly a project, as just like Mailata, he's a former rugby player that has never played football before, so Jordan's the perfect guy to mentor him and help him to learn the game and maybe develop into something one day. And speaking of Laken, both him and another Eagles project and third-round rookie defensive end Jalyx starred in this video that the Birds released to social media that once again showcases the great vibes and chemistry that this team is growing.
I love being an Eagle. Follow me, follow me, follow me. Anais, how do you feel about being on the set of Inside the NFL?
It's turned.
That's all you gotta say?
It's lit.
Anyways, let's go find somebody more entertaining than Anais Smith.
So I'm not entertaining.
Where was that when the microphone was in your face? Laken, how does it feel? Excuse me. We got to get Laken. How does it feel playing football for the first time?
It feels magnificent and significant and extravagant.
That was a lot of big words. What's the biggest difference between rugby and football?
America.
You heard it here first. The biggest difference between America. Shout out America, man.
Shout out to these two, and I mean, this video along with the big pimpin' line that he dropped when he was drafted, it seems like Jalyx has a great personality and could really turn into a fan favorite here in Philly if he develops and becomes a good player. And I really think that it's safe to say that between him and Nolan Smith, somebody's going to be able to replace the great vibes and energy that Brandon Graham brings to the defense once he retires. And speaking of BG, he was also just recently honored by the city of Philadelphia, as he was named Most Valuable Philadelphian for the impact that he's had on the city and community, so shout out to him, and hopefully the Birds are able to send him out the right way this season. And maybe to give him and the entire Eagles team a better chance to end things off the right way, there's a chance that they could go out and add some more difference makers to the roster in the form of some of the top remaining free agents, as the Birds have been linked to a few of those guys in recent days, starting with another veteran leader on the defensive line in Calais Campbell, as after being suggested as a good fit for Philly not too long ago in a Bleacher Report article, ESPN's Matt Bowen listed the Eagles as the best possible landing spot for Campbell, writing, quote, "A return to Atlanta is a possibility for Campbell if he decides to play another season at age 38. He tied for the team lead in sacks last season with 6.5, but I'm instead looking at the Eagles. Campbell would fit in Vic Fangio's 30 front as a rotational end, building more depth. At 6'8" and 282 pounds, he can hold the point against the run game when matched up with offensive tackles, and he was a productive player last season for the Falcons, registering 28 pressures. And again, as I said in my last video mentioning Campbell, I completely agree with this. I think he'd be a great fit for this Eagles defense. I mean, he's a vet that can add more leadership on the defensive side of the ball, and he would add more depth to the defensive line, and he could also be used both inside and out. Plus, he can still produce based on what he was able to do in Atlanta last year, and also on top of all that, he wouldn't cost very much to add to the roster. So I think overall it'd just be a great addition, and I just think the Birds would then have to be careful that they don't allow Campbell to eat too much into Nolan Smith's playing time. But other than that, I think it's a perfect match. So what do you guys think? Now, another guy that the Birds have been linked to recently in the wake of DeVante Parker's retirement is former All-Pro wide receiver Michael Thomas, as Patrick McAvoy of Eagles Now on SI wrote, quote, "Thomas isn't what he once was, as injuries have significantly derailed his career, but he seemingly is fully healthy and appeared in 10 games last season for the New Orleans Saints. He hadn't appeared in at least 10 games in a season since 2019, and he is now a free agent. At one point, he was one of the top receivers in all of football. He led the league in receptions in 2018 and 2019, and led the league in receiving yards in 2019. Thomas could be an intriguing option for the Eagles at a low cost." And while I personally understand what McAvoy is saying, given that Michael Thomas would be a cheap addition and he used to be one of the best receivers in the league, the injury injuries do scare me a lot, and he's clearly not the player that he once was, and I'd honestly just rather give the wide receiver 3 job to somebody that we already have on the roster. Now, personally, I'm going to keep making the case for the rookie Anaya Smith, but what do you guys think? Regardless of all that, though, I guess we'll see how the different potential options for wide receiver 3 look during OTAs and who starts to separate themselves from the pack. And there's really going to be a ton of guys, honestly, to watch at a lot of different positions during OTAs that are either fighting for starting jobs or just trying to separate themselves a little bit early to give them a better chance of staying on the roster. And one guy who you could argue fits both of those descriptions is former All-Pro cornerback James Bradberry, as just based on his salary and experience as well as his accomplishments at the NFL level, you would expect him to be competing to be a starter this year. I mean, he was an All-Pro just a very short time ago in 2022, but then last year, we obviously all know that he was pretty horrible. I mean, he was one of the worst corners in the entire NFL, so I feel like there's a chance that the Eagles might want to keep him and maybe try and get him back to his All-Pro form, or the scenario that seems more likely if you talk to any Eagles fans or just look at what's being said in NFL circles, they could potentially look to move on from him and possibly even cut him, especially since the Eagles have so much depth at the position and they just drafted 2 more guys there. And Bleacher Report's David Kenyon made a list of the best player that could be cut by each team, and he listed Bradberry as the option for the Eagles, saying, quote, "Look, he had a miserable 2023 season. It's no coincidence the Eagles drafted both Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. James Bradberry was a standout in 2022 though, so Philly may hope he can reclaim that relatively recent form. Still, the Eagles can designate him as a post-June 1st cut and avoid an additional $10.8 million in dead money this season." Now, I personally agree in the sense that since we drafted 2 corners and Bradberry also has a big contract, but cutting him could save some good money, then that might be the best move for the Eagles to make, but maybe the Eagles want to give him a shot to see how he looks at practice, and OTAs present a chance for him to do that. So it's going to be interesting to watch him and plenty of others here as OTA practices really start to get rolling. Now, tomorrow, I think the Eagles OTA practice is supposed to be open to the media, so we're going to get a ton of information coming out of that, and I'm going to do my best to cover everything, probably in a short tomorrow, and then a full video coming the next day, but I guess we'll just play it by ear and see what happens. But if you don't want to miss any Eagles coverage, whether it be these next couple days or just throughout the rest of the offseason or just year-round, make sure you subscribe and also really importantly turn on notifications so you're notified instantly when one of these videos is uploaded. And while you're at it, make sure you drop a like to show some support and leave a comment down below just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. And if you want to watch another video going over some big storylines and positional battles heading into OTAs, then you can check this out right here. Now, with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.